Gold Invest. Explore opportunity.
Pleasure of speaking with Deepak Vashney today, Chief Executive Officer of Formation Metals, trading under the ticker FOMO on the Vancouver Exchange, and also trading in Germany. Welcome, Deepak.
Thanks for having me.
I think it's fair to remind our audience that this company has recently been founded in October 2024 and has had huge success attracting capital. You raised over $7.5 million over the time and are sitting in $5.5 million working capital currently, which is full treasury to allow you to go and do what exploration companies are supposed to do, drill your flagship project in the Abitibi in Quebec. So welcome again, and I'm here to discuss the details with you. What are your plans exactly? How do you want to move this forward? Fill us in, please, Deepak, on what the next steps are supposed to be for the project.
Well, drill baby, I mean, this is something that everyone talks about doing, but having just finished these last round of financings. One of the very cool things, I think, we came to list in October. We had less than $700,000 when we started in seed capital. We went out, we acquired a project. Our goal was, let's go drill 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 meters. And as we were raising money, we welcomed some new institutional capital. We welcomed some very high net worth money into the company's shareholder base. And all of a sudden, we were just raising a lot more money than we thought. And we still left money on the table. So now we're in a position where we're actually going to be able to drill over 10,000 meters, which is just a amazing thing, right? A lot of these companies talk about having big programs, big visions, big ideas, but end of the day, fact is, to execute on these things, you need to have money. We've got over $5.5 million of exploration budget fully funded for us to go work at on this project. And at the end of the day, how are you going to grow a company? How are you going to create that value? Drill. And so that's what we're focused on now.
The other thing that I'm always thinking about is that it's been almost 20 years since this project was last explored and drilled by reputable companies, as you say. So the gold price environment has completely changed since then. And obviously that will be also translating in the way you're approaching this project. How do you see that?
Well, that's it, right? I mean, I describe what we're talking about in one word, which is growth, right? I think, one of the cooler things, as you said here, is, look, the last time this project was worked on was by Agnico Eagle. Really, is one of probably the top gold company in the world. And, when they were working the property in 2008, gold prices were $800. When Cyprus working on this in the 90s and they made the real, discovery of this project, gold price was $200. And the fact is this deposit is very, its orientation is great. It's subvertical, it's long, it's open along strike, open at depth. It starts pretty much right at the surface. The bulk of the gold so far has been in the first 200 meters. This is exactly what you would want in this kind of project. It's very open. This is the deposit that, look, at $3,400 gold, people are going to chase after all day, right? You see M&A happening across the world. A lot of projects are being scooped up by bigger companies. Why? Because at this price point here, these things make money. And so our goal here is, look, let's go out, drill 3, 4, 5 million ounces. And really, this project's economics are going to be spectacular at the current gold price. And that's why someone's going to come and scoop us up. I mean, that's what we want to do here, be the farm team.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it at another occasion that this has a 20-kilometer strike and only 5 have been so far explored. And that's where the reason...
And that's it. And that's what's exciting about this project, right? I mean, when you look at this technically, look, I always call them, they're sexy and boring sexy, right? So sexy is your high grade, which we do have. These are very high grade mineralization. And we have intercepts of 50 grams over a meter. We have those high grade veins. But the problem with those systems, in my view, is that they're skinny and notoriously difficult to mine, difficult to follow. We see a Newfound Gold, they drilled 75 kilometers and they came out with 1 million ounces, which is, you got to look at it and go, what? It's crazy, but why? It's simple, because these projects are difficult to work on. Boring sexy, which is what we have here, is when you hit gold in hole after hole after hole. It's a bulk tonnage deposit, right? We have zones where you have 84% of the holes coming back with gold mineralization. 84% of the holes return gold. And the fact is, when we're planning these drill holes, we're looking at growing the resource. Again, the flexibility you have when you have over $5 million spent on a project is we can actually focus on how do we make this the best project possible. Whereas often if you've got a much smaller budget, you have to focus on, okay, we have only a handful of shots to take. How do we maximize? We have the luxury here of doing over 10,000 meters, property-wide geophysics, property-wide soils. There's a ton of flexibility for us with our approach. And so really here now, we want to go drill out the strike. Geology is never that simple, but the fact is that the main zone has over 500,000 ounces at a gram and has delivered in over 70% of the holes. So what do we want to do? We want to just keep drilling along that strike. It's the easiest way to grow the deposit, right? And you know what? Low-hanging fruit is low-hanging fruit for a reason.
And the other thing that I always like to remind of is that 1.5 grams in the Abitibi is different from having 1.5 grams in a remote place. Not only that it's politically safe, but it also comes with the infrastructure. Right.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, you don't want to be in Mali where Barrick just lost one of their mines and the government changes its mind and takes it over. This is a place that's been mined for over 200 years. We actually had a producing mine as recently as 5 years ago, next door to our property, within 10 kilometers of our main deposit. And so being in Quebec is great, right? You get a lot of institutional support from Quebec institutions. You get a lot of government support. Permitting is well understood in this area. It's been mined historically. Access is phenomenal. There's no issues with water. Anything you look at as jurisdictionally as an issue doesn't exist in Quebec. It's a phenomenal place to work. Obviously there's a ton of producing mines in the area, and that's a huge torque for us, right? Ultimately, the 1.5 grams is in that, it's a pretty low bar for us to accomplish. There's a lot of these mines to work, you need 5, 6, 7, 8 grams. 1.5 grams is something that we think we're confident we can consistently deliver, and we grow this. This is a project that somebody will scoop up and take into production. Ultimately, that's why our focus is 3, 4, 5 million ounces, because that's the size you need to really get a major to come in and jump on you. And we're a third of the way there, right? Historically, the work that was done, 55,000 meters of drilling identified just shy of 900,000 ounces, right? This is a near surface mineralization, right? The bulk of the mineralization was within 200 meters of the surface. So this is the exact kind of gold project companies are chasing, and we're very fortunate to have it.
All right, so let's switch gears and talk about what's coming up now in terms of drilling. You permitted to drill, and so when are we going to see the action? But no.
Well, so we actually have boots on the ground right now, right? So we've got guys out there looking at access roads, at the pads, where we're going to be living for the next 12 months. Because the fact is, once we start, we're not going to stop, right? Drill hole after drill hole after drill hole after drill hole, because that's what the money is for. That's what we want to accomplish here. I love this industry. When you see companies have success, there was a company recently called Onyx Gold that re-rated, they went out, did exactly what our vision is for the future, raised money, did the work, drilled their property, went from 20 cents to $2, right? And how do they do that? By finding meaningful results in the ground. We're very cheap. I think when you look at it, it's a historical resource, but the fact is that it's at $10 an ounce right now, which is very cheap for a gold deposit. And how do we grow that? It's simple. We have to go drill. We have to get to work. We got to grow and make this get to 3 to 4 million ounces. And that's ultimately where you get that big re-rate, right? I mean, we're a pretty cheap gold company, right? Our market cap is 20 million Canadian with 5.5 million in working capital, right? That's $10 US an ounce.
Yeah. Well, and again, to remind people, you're less than a year old and already are really putting the money to work, which is great to see. Deepak, I think this wraps it up quite nicely for the time being, and we're really looking forward to seeing more news flow from the company and the action to start it, hopefully with success then.
We're going to be talking a lot over the next few months. It's going to be busy.
We'll keep in touch. Bye-bye. Ciao.